Hi, I'm Christina,
And I'm Matt.
and this is New Ways Podcast. Today, we are talking about the topic of love.
Yes, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, ladies and gentlemen.
By the time we post this, it'll be after Valentine's Day, but we thought, why not? Especially because it's to me, this is just such a diverse subject.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of avenues we can take on this.
There is.
But let's start with this then. What does love mean to you?
Ooh, to me, what
is love?
Yeah. What is love?
Yeah, what is love? Let's do that.
I mean, we could look up the definition.
I did, actually.
So, what does the Webster Dictionary say that the definition of love is?
People use Webster now? I just type things into Google and it's AI all the time.
I mean, I know. I'm just looking, for educational purposes.
Okay, let's Google it right now. Definition. Bear with me, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so actually it gave me the dictionary definition of it, which is weird because when I Googled it earlier, it was AI. Anyways, an intense feeling of deep affection.
Oh.
That's what the very, very basic definition it looks like.
So, interesting enough, it's, love at its core is, a lot of it's about being able to create these deep connections with humans. But also, too, I think that a big part of it, and immediately when you asked me that question, what came into my head was compassion. Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't talk about enough, is just being a compassionate human. So I know that you have a tattoo that says, I love you.
Yeah.
And so I would love for you to kind of explain as well what that tattoo means to you.
So, I'm pretty sure I've told you, and yeah, I love you tattooed right here on my forearm. And it's so weird because when people see it, they're like, whose writing is that? It was like somebody wrote me a letter saying, I love you. And I got their signature tattooed on me. No, I got it because something that I've adapted throughout my life was meeting everything with love. And I'll explain my definition of love after this. But it also is reminding me to love, honestly, everybody else. I especially did it facing outward. So when I shake somebody's hand, it's I'm already telling them I love them. Because to me, love is a way of being. It's not a definition. It's not having this intense emotion towards a single person. Mm-hmm. To me, there's a difference between being in love with somebody and just loving people. To me, it's an emotion. It's a way of being where I'm just to me, love is respect. Love is being gentle, but still firm, being kind. To me, it's just when I think of I love everybody, it just means I genuinely accept people for who they are and the role that they have in this world. And I try not to look at them with any judgment and just kind of what you said, compassion.
Yeah.
But that's why I got that tattooed on me, is because I'm I just want to remember to meet everything and everybody with love, because I think it's a state of being. I don't think it's a destination to be met at. Mm-hmm. So what's your definition of love, though? We Googled it. And when you think of it, though, what do you think of?
Yeah, immediately I come back to compassion, because the thing is that's one of the biggest things that I consistently see time and time again within just not even within the therapeutic space, but also just within my own life and what I see with the people around me. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a really big thing, because when I look at compassion, I also look at honesty. I look at drive. I look also at passion. There's a lot of subsidiaries and categories within what compassion means to me. And then that encompasses my ideology of love.
I love that. Because that does kind of go along with mine then too. It's not just one definition. To me, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's it's a feeling. Yep. It's multiple different things in one. To me, it's just kind of everything that's good. And also things that are bad are good too. Like I said, being hard with somebody is also showing love sometimes because they need that truth. Yeah. I think it's just a frequency.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important. And so I also too, would love to also talk to you about kind of personal experiences. with love? Because I know that earlier on the show, we actually talked about your relationships in the past.
Oh yeah.
And so I also too want to discuss not only a little bit of that, but also just sort of where you are at now with your life and how you identify love now compared to where you used to identify love.
I feel like that is such a loaded question,
It
dude.
is.
My relationship with love for the beginning portion of my life, and my life, obviously, I'm still very young, but like, was a shit show.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm trying to think. I just remember now I'm just like, I can honestly say that I love everybody. But like I said, there's a difference between being like in love with somebody and like relationship love and just love as a state of being. But I'm pretty sure I couldn't even tell like my parents I loved them until maybe 5 years ago. I thought that love, that like the word love or saying it to somebody was so deep. Honestly, I thought that it was something that had to be earned. I didn't see a lot of it in the world, and I didn't think it like existed on a level. I always thought too that like when I thought about love, I thought mostly in the concept of romantic relationships,
Yeah.
which is what I feel like many people might associate love with. And yeah, I kind of just, my definition of love was being with somebody else and like them being there for me and always like supporting me and being nice to me when I'm like, that's not actually love. That is kind of like an attachment thing.
Yeah.
And
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Too,
And I thought, yeah, to me, love was just like so one dimensional.
Yeah.
And now it means so many different things to me. And also I lacked self-love too. And we can get into that also. But yeah, man, like throughout the years, my relationship with love has definitely developed into something that I think is absolutely beautiful now, considering I did not see a lot of it when I was younger.
For sure.
In myself or from other people.
No, absolutely.
So what about you though? What's your relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I was very lucky enough to grow up with a family who was very forward with their love. And so we always said, I love you, to each other. And, before going to bed at night or just waking up in the morning or saying, bye to my mom before I go on the school bus, as a kid, I'd be like, I love you. Have a good day. And was interesting though, was when I was in my first serious relationship with a guy that I was about probably 20 at the time. And I remember just walking into like a Walmart and we were walking out of it. And I'll never forget just looking at him being like, hey, Smiley, I love you.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he goes, don't say that.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, why not? He's like, well, you say it too much. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you told me you also love me this morning. And then you said it again, and then now you're saying it a third time. And I was like, well, he said, that's just today. And I was like, but that's okay. He goes, well, no, it's not. And I was curious. And I was like, well, why? And he goes, because you're going to ruin the value of saying, I love you. And that really stuck with me because I was like, what do you mean? That ruins the value of I love you. He goes, I love you should be like a very intimate, very personal thing. You shouldn't be saying that all the time. And what's really fascinating is that now I look back on that experience, and obviously that was a him issue, not me.
Yeah.
Not a me issue.
Well, that's how I felt about it too. I was like, it's 100%. This sacred thing.
It's this very sacred thing, right? But now, and as I've grown up and really sort of moved forward in my life, I realized that is something that is very sacred to some people. And that's just how they view the world.
Yeah.
And versus I'm someone, I mean, we call each other and I'm like, girl, I love you.
No, all the time, literally. Yeah.
And we say it to each other, every single time we get off the phone, hey, I love you.
I'm pretty sure every time I hang up the phone, I'm like, love you. Have a good day.
Have
bye.
a good day.
Yeah.
Bye. You're right. And so that was the thing that was really fascinating to me is that like, he took it from such a very intimate, very personal, very singular place. And again, it's saying the word, I love you. It's not multifaceted.
Yeah.
Experiences now where you and I talk about this as saying I love you can be multifaceted and it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so I think that that also is something that I've really grown up and really grown myself into, is that like you can love in so many different
So
ways than
many.
just saying, I love you. And it has to be this very intense, very romantic, very intimate thing. And it always doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
It's interesting, even, you know, uh, I had someone like very recently just sort of come into my life, and I'll just never forget they just, told me, they were like, "Man, I love you so much for that."
Mhm.
And they're like, "God, I kid you not." They're like, thank you." Because we were talking about something very intense going on in their personal life. And, they were dealing with a lot of things. And I was talking them through it, and we were sort of discussing, how to go about it. And after the conversation, they're like, "Thank you. I love you so much for being
Yeah.
able to just talk to me about these things. I've never been able to share that before." And that to me was really interesting, because that became a new way of, another avenue of love. It was just showing that's like you can love a person for being able to help you through something.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. And it's not like, "Oh, thanks, see you later." Like, "No, I love you for being able to help me with that. Thank you. Thank you." And it was really cool. It was like a new thing I sort of experienced. I was like, "Huh, all right. Yeah.
That's why I'm so big on just honestly loving people for who they are,
Yeah.
because it's like, to me, the feeling of love is when you look at somebody who is being authentically themselves and they're just a kind person and they're bringing new insight or some type of joy into your life. And it's that feeling you get when you look at somebody and you're like, huh, like they're actually pretty cool in their own. To me, that's what love is like just having like such a deep appreciation for every experience that you have with somebody.
Yeah.
And regardless of what form that comes in, for you, it was something of service. Like that's what I mean. It's just a feeling and a frequency. But one thing that I kind of get from that too, and I'm curious your opinion, is obviously we talk about like different forms of love and different ways it can come up, but like that came up from somebody getting something from you in a way, right?
Yeah. I
Like,
mean,
I love you
advice.
because I'm
Yeah.
receiving something. And I feel like that's what a lot of people may associate love with as well, as like, I love you because you do this for me.
Mm.
You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So I'm curious your aspect on that. How do you think love comes into play when it comes, unfortunately, let's talk about romantic relationships, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of just brought it up, how this one person, it was sacred. And I'm not saying we're right. We know exactly what love's supposed to be. Everybody has their own different version. Everybody has their own beliefs and how they were raised. And by all means, like you have a right to your version of love.
Yeah.
But what do you think when it comes to the basic romantic type of relationship, how people would define love then when it comes to a romantic partner, not just like being out in the world, the general concept of it?
Ooh. Yeah. Because the thing is that honestly gets into what I like to call attachment styles,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people go through their own experiences in life and sort of have this ideology of what love looks like.
Yeah.
And so then that love can come in forms of secure attachment. They can come in forms of anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, or like disorganized attachment.
So would you consider people having in a romantic relationship, like defining love as in a way, like needing that other person to the point where it's an attachment issue?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because the thing is that I mean, yes and no. Because you can have people who have completely who are secure in themselves,
Yeah.
and then they can have a secure attachment, right? So then they're like, that's totally fine.
See, because that's the thing to me, everything in life is just like enjoying it for what it is and not having that attachment necessarily.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing is like, it's, I mean, we've talked about this in my Vipassana episode where like essentially what they say is a lot of suffering is caused from attachment, because if that thing is ever taken away from you, that's taking away your happiness.
Yeah.
And like, that's a big burden, not
Mhm.
burden, but that's a big responsibility to put on any person or anything.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think too, like when you look at relationships, everyone's goal is to have everyone's goal in life, right, is to have a secure attachment, right? You want to be able to love your person and not feel nervous about not being around them, right? Like, or
Mm-hmm.
Or they can go on a trip for 2 weeks by themselves or go with another group of people and you're like, see ya, have
Yeah.
fun. And you're like, I still can do all of the things I need to do and live my life the way I want to. I think but I think that a lot of people really struggle with that because of past experiences, because of past trauma,
Because a
because
lot of people get into relationships to validate some part of themselves. So
correct.
therefore, when they're not in that relationship anymore, they're scared that that part of themselves is not going to be valid.
Absolutely. And then
Yeah.
also on top of that too, you've also can have partners who cheat on you, right? Or you can have partners who can also hurt you too,
Mm-hmm.
which then turn around and then can cause issues within your own stability as far as what you look for in a relationship because you're like, "Oh, this happened in my last relationship. Maybe it was with a family member." You know, that I didn't like this distrust or I didn't like that they did this or they did this. And so then those can turn around and then come on you and then you look and then you try to find someone who you're like, okay, maybe if they do this, I don't want them to do this. And then this happens, but then I'm scared this is going to
Yeah, you
happen because of
project
this.
past traumas
You
onto the other
project.
person. And like, honestly, I hate to say it, but a lot of times in those cases, you land up actually creating the problem itself because
Correct.
it's like energetic law in a way, whatever you think about,
Yeah.
like you don't want, and you're still thinking about it, therefore you're still going to attract it.
Agreed.
And also too, going into kind of relationships, because I struggled with this though, is like, how do I explain it? Like the form of love I saw
Mhm.
was essentially kind of not the form of love that I know now. It was very much just like I had to kind of prove to somebody I was worthy of love. And if
Yeah.
somebody just accepted me right away, that's not real love or something like that. So naturally, that's just what I attracted. And anybody who did genuinely love me,
Yeah.
just completely right off the bat, I'm like, something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
This isn't real love. We're like, I would get the same dopamine fix when I would actually have to go chasing after somebody.
For sure.
And for them to be like, okay, now I love you after you've done this. So a lot of times though, too, like how you learned love as a child or just naturally what you're going to go looking for as an adult, regardless if it's healthy or not.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think too is that looking for healthy relationships is so important when you're trying to figure out what love means to you.
And it's also finding out what a healthy relationship is
Well,
too.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
like so I'm curious to know, how do you go about finding what a healthy relationship means to you? What kind of self-reflection do you personally do, or what kind of reflections have you talked to people, and what kind of works for people that you've seen to help build themselves within creating that stability?
Mm-hmm. Well, right off the bat, too, especially when people first meet somebody, you know how like a lot of times we think of love as head over heels.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, I just am so obsessed with this person. We flow so well, or I have this like attachment to them. I like to look at first, for one, is it lust, infatuation, or is it actually like a genuine connection? Because a lot of times, though, too, when you do realize that you don't love yourself or you're not necessarily in the healthiest relationship with yourself, a lot of times, once again, those are the relationships you're going to attract. So it triggers something emotionally in you, like a dopamine fix that you're naturally used to.
Do you think that that would be the infatuation?
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
Infatuation, you're just like, it's something that you like are obsessed over because it's something that's familiar to you, and you see that and like somebody matches it so well.
Yeah.
Or like lust could be just how like somebody looks, but I'm just like, what I really like to get down to the nitty gritty is do you actually know this person though?
Yeah.
Because just sitting and talking with somebody for a few minutes can a lot of times if you're being conscious,
Yeah.
distinct the difference between lust, infatuation, and actually a genuine connection with
Yes.
somebody.
Interesting enough that you talk about this. This is a little side story. I never knew what that experience was like
Mm-hmm.
until, funny enough, I moved to Los Angeles.
Oh, I've had so many experiences
And
like that, though. I know right off the bat, I'm like, something's going on
right,
here.
interesting enough, had a crazy full circle moment where, like, back when I was like maybe 22 or
Mm-hmm.
23, I had followed this one person on Instagram just because they were like, into fitness and, they were gay. And I was like, oh, they're attractive. Sure,
Yeah.
whatever. I'd give them a follow. Didn't think much of it until, funny enough, I met this person in Los Angeles at a random bar at
Yeah.
like on a, you know, Saturday evening with a group of friends. And it was like, no way, that's like this person who is, and I'll never forget, I was like, man, like they were like, you know, so physically, you know, attractive. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like what, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be brave enough to like go up and introduce myself and say hi. I had never been so disappointed in
At
my
least you realized
entire
that
life.
though.
No, like it's just like,
Well, some people, even if like
whoa, you know, like
they have an idea and they'll still like, even
you
when somebody shows you who you are, believe them, but they don't want to believe it.
exactly. And like this person showed me who they were very fast.
At
And I
least you
was
believed it.
like,
That's the thing. Instead of having that like
oh my
infatuation
gosh.
blinders
Yeah.
on.
And so this like infatuation turned to immediate like get me out of this conversation. Oh my gosh. I was like in peace. You know, so I was like, hey, it was good talking to you. Bye.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I'll spare you guys the details on that discussion because it's just not, you know, important. But it really was a shell shocker to me recognizing what infatuation does to people
Mm-hmm.
because it creates this ideology of what you want this specific person or maybe even this type of person to be like based on your own preconceived
Yeah.
notions of what you know of either them from either social media or what you've experienced from this person just in passing. But to then recognize and see a person for who they actually are and it not be anything that you had thought of what these preconceived notions were was like such an eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of weird and disappointing because then vice versa. I know we're on the conversation of love and relationships, but that being said, just like a little side scoot, they always tell you to never meet your heroes.
Really?
Oh yeah. You've never heard that term? You
No.
never meet your heroes?
Uh-uh.
Because it's just gonna be the biggest disappointment ever. You've never heard that term.
I probably have heard
Yeah.
some version of it, but like, okay, so I also, not to be this person, I don't have a
Yeah.
lot of heroes.
Okay.
I don't idolize a lot of people.
Yeah.
To me, like one thing that I've always just kind of known is people are people.
Yeah.
Like I think we're all created equal. So like that's something where I'm like anything that this amazing person is doing right now and I
Yeah.
love, like I can do too.
Agreed.
I'm a big person of like that one in the million type of thing, but like I can be that one too.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not why. And like a lot of my idols that I idolize, I mean, I would hope they're good people because most of the time they're in like the wellness community.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But no, I mean, it was just like, it was kind of on that same level where you start meeting especially when I moved to LA, I started meeting all of these people who I had, you know, seen on Instagram or, you know, just
Yeah.
social media or whatever. And you realize
We're all
that
just
they are,
people.
my God, we are all just people.
We're
But
all
not
just people.
but like people who say they are one, you know, one way and are definitely not.
But that's
Like
the thing
that
though,
in
is
real
people
life.
get so attached to
But people
like,
get attached to the idea of that one specific.
yes, like I'm in
trait.
love with this person or at least the idea of this person. And a lot of times too, that's where in relationships we see where people fall in love with like the idea of the potential that somebody holds.
Yeah.
But not the actual person themselves.
Agreed.
We see that a lot. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Like even with one of my exes, I was like, his brain, oh my gosh, like you'll be chilling with somebody and you're like, you're a freaking genius. But if you can't see the genius in you and you don't want to excel, I can talk until I'm blue in the face once again, and you're not going to do it. Like you fall in love with the potential and you hold on and kind of defeat yourself so long.
Yeah.
And it actually drains you. And a lot of people are like, but I love them. I have to be here to support them and build them up. And I get that. Like another thing when it comes to building healthy relationships and finding like true, genuine love, it's like, realizing love is not this fairy tale idea that we all have like in the storybooks, right? It's not like this selfless type of support for another person. It's not falling head over heels. To me, love is kind of just like finding your person that you get along with, you have like that energetic connection with, and you both show up for each other equally.
Yeah.
Like that's a big thing for me. I'm like, do you feel like they're showing up for you the way that you're showing up for them? Nobody's perfect, but is this something that like you guys want to go through the hard times and the good times together and build and become a better person? To me, that's what true, genuine love is seeing the person for who they are and like wanting to become a better version of yourself for you and that other person.
Real love takes work.
Yeah.
Takes big work.
See, and like once again too, I don't believe anything is like big work because in my mind I'm like it comes easy when you know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
If you know that you and your partner are on like the same page and you guys are building, yes, it might just it's like doing it scared, right?
Yeah.
Or like even what we do here, like it's exhausting sometimes and it is work, but like you gotta love it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. I think what I mean by like big work is that you have to put yourself in the hot seat to be able to be comfortable with surrendering ego.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is that's big work. That takes a lot of work to do that because it's not easy to just completely surrender that ego and tell yourself you were right or I was wrong. I think that a lot of people also too really struggle with the notions of wanting to be in these like perfect ideal relationships, but they don't want to put in the work to create what that ideal relationship means.
Mm-hmm.
People so much will come to me. Oh my God, I will never forget this. When they're like, I'm not happy in this relationship because of blank, 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 blank. And they'll just pick out the person's like, like 5 or 6 traits. And I'm like, okay, but let's talk about your traits. It does take a lot of work to be able to have those healthy relationships because you have to do a lot of work on yourself. And that is something I have just seen time and time again is that you have to surrender your own ego to be able to not only work on the things that you want to work on, but also figure out too the things that maybe your partner wants you to work on as
Mm-hmm.
well. Because no one's perfect. But being able to communicate too the things that you want to do
Yeah.
and the things that you want to work on is massive.
And I want to reiterate too, like also we're talking about in regards to like romantic relationships right now, but like I do believe going back to like we're talking about like you have to admit where your flaws are, like where your weak spots are and grow from there. You should be doing that regardless if you were with a partner or not. It's just the thing is though is when you are in a romantic relationship with somebody, you do have somebody right by your side there also who is like once again I'll say it again for like the bajillionth time on this podcast, sometimes you do need to step outside of the frame to see the bigger picture and this person is out of the frame and is so closely related to you they might bring things to your attention that you were unaware of.
Yeah.
But at the same time, part of me when it even comes to like self-love is being brutally honest with yourself and saying what do I need, what is serving me, what is not, once again what is me and what's not, and taking that scary step forward, killing your ego and trying to like better yourself. You know, you shouldn't necessarily have a partner to make you a better person, even though that's what people usually wait for.
Yeah.
Is finally, I have somebody who might love me now, let me change. Like, you should be wanting to be the best version of yourself because you love yourself anyways. You know, we talked about it with our dietitian who was on too. Do you go to the gym because you hate yourself or because you love yourself? Like, I do believe that, like, it's an amazing thing that we can have these experiences with other people, but love shouldn't just be between things and people. It should
Yeah.
be with yourself as well.
How do you feel about transactional love?
What do you to me that's not love.
No, but to some people it is. And so I'm curious
So
to
give an
know.
example then of what transactional love is
Oh,
for
I
I know
mean,
what it is, but
yeah. I mean, like the fact that I'll love you
if you do this.
if you do this.
That's
if
not
it's,
love.
but what if it's to better yourself? Like,
That's still not love.
so the thing, I'm not
That's a
supporting
threat.
this, by the way, but it's not. But the thing is though, is I think so many people go in the notions of like transactional love in a way. Like, oh, he loves me because he took me on a vacation, or he loves me because, he did XYZ. I meet so many people, especially out here, who treat love like that. And it's such an interesting concept to me because that's also too what they've grown up and what they've known because their parents were like that.
Uh-huh.
Their parents, oh, I love you. Here's, 2 floor seats to the Lakers game. Or something. It's something absurd. I dealt with this a lot in the private schools, but I see a ton of transactional love, which is so fascinating to me.
So when I hear that though too, I do like automatically I think like love language, and love language is definitely a thing where you can express with your partner like this is something that makes me feel loved, because I feel like maybe especially when it comes to material things, people are like, "Oh, they were thinking about me."
Yeah.
Therefore like this gift is a sign that they love me because they thought about me when they bought it. But I'm sorry, like transactional love to me, that's not love though, because transactional means like you're giving me something for this. And that's not just pure, like, to me, love is just like you would do something for that person because you just want
Regardless.
to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a pure, genuine thing. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I can definitely see where that's a thing. But to me, then that's a transaction. That's like a business deal. That's not actually like, I care about you. That's like, I mean, we see it with men a lot of times, though. Like, they feel like just because they have a lot of money, they can buy women. And they can. But
Yep.
once again, that's not true love. I'm sorry. I'm a firm believer that, like, any transactional love will only leave you feeling empty and not like you're loved, anyways.
Yep.
You know, you're just getting a temporary dopamine fix from this person being like, oh my gosh, you're so great. Or like loving on you.
Yeah.
To me, that true love isn't something that like you can buy. It's not something that you can make the other person eventually see. It's just a mutual connection.
Yeah.
But I do think, though, also, I'm curious how you feel about this, though, because a lot of times I feel like we see in any type of relationship, friendships or family relationships or romantic relationships, people oftentimes feel like they are not loved because this person does not meet their idea of love.
Yeah.
How do you think that we can encourage people to show up for each other then in regards to that? Like, when I was in Bali,
Yeah.
I took a class about kind of love, and she was like, have you ever even sat down with your partner and told them your love language? Like, you can't
Yeah.
expect somebody else to know how to care about you or to at least like fulfill some of your needs
Yeah.
if you don't tell them. And to me, that's not transactional love, though, because you genuinely care about the other person too. You just want to feel a deeper connection. And if that person is willing to show up and do those things without having like an ego attached, that to me is like you guys just supporting one another.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on that?
I think that when I look at immediately when you brought that up, I was like, oh, well, you kind of have to work on yourself first.
Well, you have to know your love
And you have
language
to
because
know
a
your
lot of
love
people are like,
language.
they don't know
They don't
themselves. So
know
they're
them.
like, huh?
And
I've never even thought of that.
If I was in that class, immediately I'm like, well, I don't even know my love language is. So I need to go back to the other class and figure out what my love language is first. You know, because that's what I think a lot of people really struggle with is they don't have that confidence to know exactly who they are. And granted, do we 100% always know who we are? No, right?
I mean, I'm
We're
discovering
growing
new
every
things
day.
about myself every single
Exactly.
day, but I have a
But we have a
idea of how to listen to what
Exactly.
is me.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we have like a, you know, the goal in life is to be able to have a foundation strong enough about you to then turn around and then be able to build that foundation with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So
Doesn't have to be romantic.
doesn't have to
In
be
these types
romantic.
of
No.
relationship we are talking about, like, but yeah.
Yeah.
But continue, please.
But no, and I think that's the thing. So looking back on that, if you have an idea of who you are, it's really easy to be able to then turn around and communicate to the person that you're with what your needs and wants are,
Mhm.
which is, you know, coming back to that, you know, ideology. You're confident and stable within yourself and how you feel about the world. You're going to be confident and stable about your relationship because you're going to be able to communicate what you need and what you want.
Yeah. And you're not going to stay in a relationship that does not serve you.
Yes.
Just to, you know what I mean? Like, when you know yourself and you know like what your limits are and what you need, if somebody's not willing to meet that, a lot of times you're like, well, I'm not going to be able to even be with this person.
This is the year 2025. Get it together. Don't be with a third-rate person.
With a what?
Third-rate person.
Define that
A
for me, please.
C-level celebrity.
A C-level
You deserve an A-list celebrity, such as yourself.
I agree with that.
Right?
I
But
agree with that.
genuinely, like, you don't need a D-lister. All right, get yourself an A-lister.
But that's
all
the
right?
thing. I mean, I've even come on here and said that, though. I'm just like, to me, that D-list love was better than no love.
I mean, well, I would.
But that's the thing is, I didn't even know how to love myself back then.
Exactly.
So that's
There you
why
go.
I accepted less than I actually know I deserve.
Yep.
It's like, that's something that I heard a long time ago, is like, you will literally accept the love that you think you deserve. If you know you deserve better and you give that to yourself too, you're not going to accept less from somebody else.
Exactly.
Because it's just like, if I can do this for myself, like, this other person's not making me feel good. And not unfortunately, but like, love is meant to make you feel good.
Yeah.
It is, regardless of whatever kind of love it is. It's meant to be a good feeling. It's an amazing vibration. So when this other person lowers it, you're like, what is this? This doesn't feel
Truly.
good, and you don't want to stay in it. But once
Exactly.
again, like, at that time in my life, my version of love was not a healthy version of love.
Agreed.
So I did stay in it because I'm like, oh, this is normal. When when I decided to take time and actually figure out, I was like, holy shit, it's not. So I also want to encourage people too, is it's just like when you do take the time to find out who you are and what your love language is, it's just like, don't wait for tell like other people yes what it is, be vocal, because I'm a firm believer too, like people can't show up for you until you kind of tell them how to. You can't expect people to just know things about you. You have to be open, but like please do it for yourself.
You do.
That's my biggest thing, is I'm just like, you're telling this other person what you want from them, but do you even do that for yourself either?
Yeah.
Like, do you really like, do you show up for yourself the same way you want somebody else to show up for you? To me, that's a big thing. Curious, what is your love language then?
What is my love language? Words of affirmation, hands down, is the biggest one. And maybe that's a little bit because, I'm a, like a therapist by trade, but also too, it's like using your words to communicate how you are is been one of the biggest sort of successes in my own personal life in the past recent years. I've really sort of surrendered to the idea of fear, because I think that before I was so fearful of what the other person was thinking or going to say. And I was so fearful of saying the wrong thing or being in, a position where I was going to be in the wrong. Because again, I used to be in a relationship where I was told I was always wrong. And so that caused immense amount of fear in me because I thought I was always.
So now when you hear
wrong.
good things about you, it like lights you up.
Correct.
Okay.
But not because I'm insecure with myself. It's more the fact that.
No, but it's okay. It's nice to hear.
But for me, the words of affirmation, it's more than just like, oh, you're doing a good job. It's more of being able to communicate like, hey, thank you for doing this because of this. And and the reason why it's my love language is because I use it all the time with people. And I catch myself using it a lot of the time because like I'm constantly thanking people for being like, and
you are
being
thanking
aware.
people a lot.
I am. I do.
Matt, why are you thanking me? I mean, like, thank you, but like, what did I do?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm accurate with it. But that being said, I think that it comes back to being able to be in that position of, when someone does something for you, it's just like, dude, thank you so much. For
recognition though, and that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be recognized, especially by somebody you care about.
Absolutely. And
it's nice to feel seen.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so, I like being able to not only give that recognition, but to then, also receive it. And if you don't, it's like not a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's whatever. But you can tell when there is those words of affirmation that it does make a difference for a lot of people. And myself, it's one of them. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah. Love that. That's beautiful. I think mine would probably be things.
Things?
Buy me things. No, I'm kidding.
Buy me things. Transactional love by Christina
I love
Perry.
things. No. I mean, don't you know how I treat myself? No, I'm kidding. Definitely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have. Okay. You would love to.
You know what? We may or may not clip this. I'm going to give the hottest take ever. I want to be a Beverly Hills bitch. Like, I want to be the kind of girl that like walks on Beverly Hills Drive and just like, girl, you love me, give me a Ferrari. There are those people like that. Oh, I know those women too. And they just rock my world.
But that's the thing is like, don't get me wrong.
That's hot. You know what? Oh, live your best life.
Like, yes. I don't know how to respond to that because at the same time, I'm just
true.
like, yeah, I would love that. Are you kidding me? You want to buy me a Ferrari? By all means, babe. But
give
like,
me a
if
Cartier bracelet, I'll take you to dinner.
I think they're overrated.
It doesn't matter.
Cartier bracelet.
It's cool.
I'd be like, I'm gonna spend like 10K on a bracelet, like not to be this person, but like
you're not spending it. Someone else is.
I'd rather be like, can I start a charity? I am that person.
So
I am that person. But just like, I talk about this all the time. I want all the abundance in life, right? Like I want the world and everything else that it has to offer. Like there's no limits. If somebody wants to provide that for me, yes, please. But the thing is I could never accept it if it wasn't from somebody that I actually like that I know loves me for me and isn't trying to buy my love.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, that I'm not just loving them for the things that they have to offer.
Sure.
I was joking when I said that, but it does bring things around full circle where it's like
does.
my love language is honestly like, in a sense, acts of service, little things here and there that show that you care about me.
Yeah.
And like,
What's your biggest act of service?
That's like, I don't know yet, to be honest with you. I think it's like the little things that you can do every single day. Like it would be like bringing coffee in bed to me, like just showing up with flowers, like honestly, even just like grabbing me by the waist and like embracing me for a minute. It's the little things. But once again, if you have the means and you want to buy me things and like that's you showing up and being like, hey babe, your car, I didn't like it, like, or it's breaking down, here's a new one, I'd be like, thank you.
Yeah.
But like that's the thing to me is it's things that just show me that you kind of care, that like I'm in the back of your mind without having to like text you all day, without having to remind you things. It's just knowing that you're thinking about me and like what can make my life a little bit easier. You know what I mean? Because I'm always thinking about other people and how I can make their life easier. Like I would appreciate that in reciprocation. I'm always buying people that I love nice things because I'm just like, I like nice things. So I hope you like these nice things too. And it'll make your life easier and make you feel more abundant and loved.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not buying you them because like they cost a bunch of money, even though sometimes they are expensive. I'm buying you them because I want you to feel like the joy I get when I see something like that too.
For sure. I see acts of service happen in you so much. I want to know though, is that a nursing trait? And not to generalize, I'm just genuinely being honest.
I don't know, because the thing is we talk about this too in the hospital. Like it's a love-hate relationship for me.
For you. But I'm just curious, like as a community, as like the nursing community, do you think it's because like acts of service is the main love language?
No, I don't think so.
The medical field?
Because I know some nurses who, not to be this person, but they're extremely self-centered and selfish. Like they won't even want to get off of their chair if like a call light's on, or if somebody wants like, somebody wants you to go to the extra mile a little bit, like say the patient needs like, asks for socks, but they have a blanket on, they'd be like, I don't need to get it right now. Like they're fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I have my limits too in regards to like the hospital setting. There's some things I will not do for patients, especially if I feel like it's inappropriate or they can do it for themselves, because I'm not doing you any favors by babying you. But I think it's also just like in my head, for one, I go out of my way for myself all the time. And I would love for those that care about me to go out of their way for me if I needed something.
Yeah.
So my biggest thing in life all the time is I'm just like, how do I want to be treated?
Yeah.
That's something that I look at all the time. And I'm like, I treat others how I want to be treated.
Yeah.
That's just a rule that I kind of follow. And I'm like, I'm also that person where it's just, if it's not anything big going out of my way, like you see me, I keep single dollar bills like in the console of my car just to give to homeless people when I see them.
It's one of the coolest things I've ever seen Christianity. Like, I mean, you do a lot of cool things, but there was something really like wholesome and special, I'll never forget, about being in your passenger seat with you. And you were actually driving me to the airport.
Yeah.
And you literally, like, we had a man that was just walking in the middle of the road, and you went and just handed
We were
him.
mid-conversation, and I literally didn't even stop our conversation.
And
I
just
reached in, and I just handed it to him, and I'm like, God bless. And that was
he was so thankful. It was just like very wholesome experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm like, to me, that's such a minimal amount also.
Yeah.
That I'm like, if it does I don't care what you spend it on. If it makes your day that much and gives you that much brightness, to me, like, it's worth it. I'm just that person where, like, if I can, and it's not going to drain me, we both know I have healthy boundaries. I will not do anything that does drain me.
Correct.
But I'm just like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really doesn't cost anything to me, and I get lit up just as much from seeing other people get lit up.
Yeah.
So I think that's also too, like, when you were saying that yours is words of affirmation, it's so weird though, because I was thinking too, I'm like, yes, I love being told nice things, don't get me wrong, but as a child and like in my early relationships, I don't trust words of affirmation, because somebody can say one thing and do another. And I've seen, not to generalize, but I've seen so many men tell me, let's do this, let's do that, I'm gonna do this, I feel this way, and do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
That's why for me, it's just like, don't get me wrong, I really love hearing it, but at the same time, words without action are empty to me.
Yeah.
So like, you can talk until you're blue in the face. If you don't show me something that supports that, I don't really believe it.
Yep.
That's probably why, like, it's acts of service for me.
Interesting.
because I'm like, let's do it
That's
type of
such a
person.
twist on it. That's such a twist. That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kind of to wrap things up too, because we've been going for a little bit, is
Yeah.
if somebody wants to cultivate more love in their life,
Yeah.
and I'm not just talking about romantic love or friendship love, I'm just talking about general love.
Yeah.
How do you think, what are tools, things that people can do to kind of get there a little bit more? Say people just feel like they lack it. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I do feel like sometimes people lack love in their life.
For sure.
How do you think people can go about cultivating that?
You can't start loving anyone else until you start loving yourself.
Okay.
So, my biggest thing is that at the end of the day, no matter where you are, no matter who you are, if you are not true to yourself and you are not doing the things that support and love you personally, you can't start going around and loving other people. I think that you can have an appreciation for people, but to create those deeper connections, you have to be able to create that deeper connection within yourself. That is so important. And being able to create that deeper connection within yourself, you have a better appreciation and understanding for other people who are going to be on that same level as you, who have those same interests, who have those same passions, who have that compassion
Yeah.
that we talked about. Those things are so valuable and so important.
I love how you said that, and I couldn't agree more, especially too, because unfortunately, like, when you love yourself, to me, that's just like you're purely who you are, and you're not looking externally for anything to validate like who you are and how much you do love yourself and how much
Yeah.
you care about yourself and having that like frequency, you know what I mean? But if you don't, unfortunately, you will constantly look for external forces to validate you. So any type of love that you find is not actually pure just love and connection. It has some underlying tone to it, meaning like I need this to validate me.
Yeah.
So I do love how you said that, because I couldn't agree more with you. It's just like I do believe there are people who can help you love yourself more. But if you aren't willing to love yourself, eventually that relationship might sizzle out, and it's always transactional. And once again, you're putting a very high responsibility on that other person or that thing to make you feel valid. When
Agreed.
in reality, you are valid right off the bat.
Yeah.
Like you're worthy of love and you're an amazing person. And something that I would say that's helped me at least is, as cliche as it sounds, because a lot of people might just be like, I don't even know like how to love myself or
Yeah.
appreciate myself. And people, I feel like we all look for such complex things sometimes. We're all like, I'm going to go take myself to like a 5-hour spa day and then I'll feel like I'm loved and appreciated, or like, I'm going to do this crazy thing. To me, what really helped me cultivate love in my life is just taking a beat and appreciating. Gratitude to me is kind of love also, is like just appreciating everything that's around me, is because like when I finally realized how the little things in my life that like I can do for myself and just the little joys that are constantly around me, like uh, that's what just made me fall in love with things. Is like when I first came out to LA, hiking in the mountains, breathing in the fresh air, looking around and being like, holy shit, this is so beautiful. Like finding new ways for me to show up for myself, and like realizing when I finally set a boundary, I'm like, oh my gosh, look, I stood up for myself. Like I know I deserve this and I'm acting like it. And then it's so funny because when you finally decide you deserve something, it's come to you. To me, it's kind of just like trusting the process that you are worthy of love
Yeah.
and vibrating at that frequency and seeing all the little ways that it is in the world. Also, something that I think is really beautiful is I feel like we are a very fast-paced world, and we don't even see the little acts of love all around us. Like today when I got on the plane and off the plane, the guy sitting next to me like offered to put my bag up top, and he, like even before we were leaving, he let me go out first and he took my bag down for me, and he's like, I hope you have a great day. To me, I'm like, that's just like that type of kindness I see is like, that's why I love people. To me, that's the love in the world, is little things like that.
Yeah.
It's that little interaction I have with the homeless person or unfortunate person I give a few bucks to, and I see the smile on their face.
Yeah.
It's just finding ways to cultivate more love in your life. And I'm a firm believer too, like, please don't go out looking for love.
Yeah.
Look for love within yourself. Find the interesting things about you, and that's when it just naturally comes to you. You know what I mean? Because when you're out there doing things that are good for you, a lot of times you're once again in rooms with people who also appreciate the good things you're doing for yourself, and you can do them for them, and that's how you connect.
Yeah.
You always hear it all the time, is like people finally find like their soulmate when they finally just like give up and focus on themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably my way to show up and cultivate a little bit more love in your life, is just also realizing that it's all around you all the time. You just have to choose to see it
Yeah.
and feel it.
Being present with those moments. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I think
we're good.
That's pretty good. I think we had, yeah. I love this conversation today. This was really healing in
Yeah.
a way. You know, I mean, it's just like, it's just great. I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
And it's just great to be able to sit and have these discussions in such a healthy, great way.
I agree. I even feel like we might have shied away from it for a little bit because, I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts. We see a lot of different podcasts come in and out of like different studios, and a lot of people do fixate on love in regards to dating and like the toxic dating culture. A lot of people see it, and I feel like sometimes love nowadays has just such like a negative undertone.
Yeah.
And I just love how our conversation is what I truly believe it is. It's just like, it's not about what other people can do for you scene or how to find love. It's something that like we all just have.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this conversation was so beautiful.
I agree. Absolutely.
Well, thank you for having it with me, Matt.
Yeah,
I love you.
Love you too.
And until next time, I love you guys.
Thank you so much. Keep shining your light.